These countries are called East African Community. So we have something called a customs union. We're not a free trade area in East Africa Community. We are a customs union, which means free trade around East African borders. If you make in East Africa, if you make in Kenya, and you've got value add in your product of minimum 35%. And therefore, there's issues around that in terms of when you take that product and bring it into Kenya and then you want to export it to Uganda, there's an issue around the whole tariff discussion. You won't be added extra taxes, but you've got to know where your product is going. So for trading also, you're allowed to bring in your products here. However, the key issue is being competitive. You have to be competitive against what's happening. So we do not restrict and say, oh, this is from China, and stop China, stop America, stop any other country. We allow any other country. So yes, you will compete with China, right? It's a market where China is also dominant, right? Because the product pricing and all that stuff is different. So apart from that, I think the issue around rules are quite automatic. A lot of things are automated. The Kenya Revenue Authority is the one that collects all the taxes. Everything is online. So it's all online. You can see real-time stuff, and that's all possible. Apart from that, there are many, many government services that are online. Not as good as India. I think India, you're used to now everything being online. Here, a lot of things are already on e-citizen, and you can get things done automatically. So your registration and all that stuff can be done very simply. You don't have to go to a government body to get that done. Any private person can help you go on to BRS, whether it's a lawyer or whether it's a firm of accounting firms, who can help you in doing that. And there are many firms here, we can get you in touch with them. So really, ease of doing business, right? Ease of doing business here is quite easy. However, your products will compete. So I just want to warn you that your products will compete with the best in the world. It will compete with many more products coming from anywhere in the world. So you have to be competitive. Now, manufacturing in Kenya is still not heavily, proliferated by a lot of manufacturing. So there's a lot of room for improvement in manufacturing here. So there is scope for you to come here and manufacture. Now, the beauty of coming here and value adding in Kenya is number one. You produce here, then you can sell to East Africa, duty free. You can also now sell to the whole of Africa through the AFCFTA, so the African Free Trade Area. You can sell to them. But also we now just signed off TFTA. TFTA is your East African Community, COMESA, and SADC. So now that's also been duty free for the last 2 weeks, or 4 weeks right now. And we've signed on to that. So therefore, you can export from here to all those markets. You've got to make sure that your costing is right. So if you want to check out your raw material input cost, a lot of input costs are raw material you bring in. Some of them are at zero duty. So we have a 3 tariff base. Now we've just changed to 4 tariff base. 0% is the duty for raw materials not made in East Africa. 10% is the duty rate for intermediate products that are used for manufacturing, as inputs into manufacturing, 10%. So there's a 0 to 10% tariff barrier for that. And then there is 25% import duty for finished products brought from outside. Whatever is made here would have a 35% duty also in some aspects. So there's different rates. You've got to check out what your products are in. So 0, 10, 25, 35. That is it, simplified. The VAT rate in Kenya is 16%. It's across the board for everything. One rate only. But we have another rate called zero rate. Zero rate is a rate given to certain products that are essential products that are utilized by, whether it's healthcare or whatever. There are some of those. There's not many right now. Including all our services have a 16% VAT. So there's something that will be across the board. What else in terms of taxes? Some sensitive products have a duty of 60%, like milk. If you bring in milk, powder milk, there's 65% duty. That's to protect our dairy industry. So some of the sensitive products lie in that. But if you're into your transformers, your hardware or whatever, industrial machines, a lot of things will be in low tariff base. So the question then is, you've got to be competitive. I believe that India is very, very competitive in a lot of things, but again, you've got to see who's your customer on the end. And there are lots of traders here, a lot of people here, whom you can also partner with. They can be your agents. They can start doing things for you. But if you feel that you want to come alone into Kenya and want to do it on your own, welcome. Nothing stops you. So it's not like where the Dubai, where you have to have a local partner, 30%, all that stuff. Not in Kenya. So very liberal environment, right? Lastly, when you want to say pack up and go and you want to expropriate your money outside, it is allowed on the capital account, as long as you pay the local taxes. Are we clear? So there's nothing like restrictive on the capital account or on the recurrent account to send money across. Now, when you import goods or bring out goods, you can buy local currency. If you got local currency, you can convert to foreign currency by calling the bank. Is there any banker here today? If there's a banker here, they'll tell you, just give us a call and you want $1 million right now? Fine, pay the shillings and the $1 million there. The question is the rate. Today's rate is at 130 shillings, but again, depends on what you negotiate as a rate. So on that account also, convertibility is quite fast, right, into any currency. Our exports are still low, as I think Mr. Guracha said. Our exports are still low, but we do export quite a bit of old products, tea, coffee, and stuff like that. And floriculture, horticulture has now become even bigger. We export a lot of our vegetables to Europe every day by air. We export a lot of these flowers that you saw here. The flowers, we actually grow them here in Kenya, and we export them every day by air into Holland or into other places. And really, that's how people express their love in European countries. So we have that as a rampant industry, which means our logistics of air transport is also quite well developed, but there is room for improvement. So everywhere the cold chain also is quite improved, but there's also room for improvement. India probably looking at it is agri-industry and agri-industry parts. Serious requirement here, we can do a lot more here. You have the technology out there, you can bring it here. In fact, we could actually do with your DPI here, you know, your digital public infrastructure. We could actually have our government put it in and say, fine, here it is. And therefore, M-Pesa becomes free for everyone, although right now we pay a lot of cost for our money transfer online. But really, if you want to transfer your money online on M-Pesa, it's one click away, you know. One click away. Just send an SMS and that's done. We're still going to the QR code system like you have in India, but really, we're progressive. So digitally, we're quite well connected. Bandwidths here, you will get very good bandwidths, right? There's no shortage of bandwidth across the country. So therefore, the whole digital leapfrogging is happening in Kenya. A lot of startup industries, a lot of things happening here. But again, I would want to answer your questions if you have any. You got some burning questions, you want clarity on something, let's do that session for now,
please,
yeah?
Please.
Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah. If anybody has a question, they can raise the hand.
Yeah,
please.
Give them a mic. Today, frankly, ask anybody here, and we're far more safer in all aspects, right? Yeah, that's fine. But there's no hidden agenda for anyone. I'll tell you one thing. There's no hidden agenda for anyone because we're still investing here. Of course, there will be speed bumps. Like this current regime may be a speed bump for you right now because it's got issues that are around taxation. But that's not an issue for a long term. For the last 20 years, if you look at what's happening, we've had transformation in a big way.
I think envisage some good potential for dairy, then you have some plans. Can you elaborate?
Yes, thank you for the question. The refrigeration, the cold chain industry has got a lot of opportunities. First and foremost, milk is one of them. Everyone across the country has milk, and the cold chain needs to be developed in a bigger way. Number one. Number two, fruits and vegetables. Big requirement for cold chain. Our 60% of our produce finds its way to markets. 40% has a problem of rotting away. That could be solved by the cold chain, right? So cold chain needs to be established in a lot of places in Kenya, and that could be a complete private enterprise. It doesn't need government at all, right? Then the flour industry right now. The flour industry is growing in a big way. We're now one of the largest flour manufacturers, flour exporters in Kenya right now, and that cold chain needs to be developed, right? So there is that possibility. But apart from that, I think the whole capability of our produce and make it a private enterprise rather than a government enterprise is allowed. It's allowed, and therefore, again, I'll tell you, RefCon, all the refrigeration and air conditioning equipment is all imported. There's nobody making it here. Power transformers. There are 5 or 6 companies here producing the power switchboards and stuff like that, right? Including Schneider, they're all here. But there's possibilities there, number one. Number two, in transformers, there's no manufacturer of transformers in Kenya today, as we speak right now. Our transformers have a problem. Let's face it, when KPLC has a problem, when it rains, our transformers go down because we've got the wrong type of transformers in a lot of places. So that's opportunity space for you. But again, you've got lots of engineers here in Kenya. You can speak to them. You can talk about transformer manufacturing or whatever. Ultimately, your problem will be the buyer is KPLC. Because in Kenya, power is only one company. Distribution of power is by one company, Kenya Power Lighting Company. So that'll be your ultimate customer, number one. Number two, we can have larger power transformers which are owned by people directly, and they put them up. So you probably connect with an engineering company here, and I can put you into touch with so many here. They'll show you exactly what is a possibility, what's not a possibility, and what can be done here. So that's a huge possibility, not only in Kenya, but the whole region. In fact, DRC right now in East Africa, huge possibilities. But then you've got to say, let's put our foot down and say, fine, let's get into it. So opportunity there, white space. You can set up here, not a problem. Ultimately, you've got to get back to consumer. Is the consumer going to buy it? Is your market going to buy it? Again, the medical fraternity is going to say, yeah, this is something that I recommend. And they all give you prescriptions, right? They give you prescriptions. That's the whole pharma industry is a huge potential. In fact, it's one of the priority sectors in the government right now to say, bring in on more pharma and then look at how to go back in the value chain, right? But you can also go into forward linkages because we have also got very low tariffs for our pharmaceuticals. We also bring in and allow a lot of duty-free products. So you got to look at that specifically from the tariff book, and the opportunity space is big. So pharma is one priority sector you can talk to him.
Can we connect with anyone for pharma? It will be a partner.
Immediately. You can connect with him right now, and he'll tell you right now, come on board tomorrow. To export ghee and milk into Kenya, forget it. I'll tell you why. 40 billion liters of milk is produced in Kenya. Milk itself, right? It's in liquid form. And then milk powder is also spray dried in Kenya. It's produced in Kenya. However, we have a 65% tariff duty on that because we have enough production. Out of this 40 million, after the 40 billion liters, right? Only about 25 billion is being packed and sold. The rest is sold as loose. So there's an opportunity for you to invest in this country rather than say, I want to bring in milk. Nestle came here, put up a huge thing, whatever, and discussed and said, we've got milk mountains in Europe, we'll bring it out here. They failed, they left, and they went. So I would suggest that in milk, please come and set up here. You can compete here, you can start producing here, and then export to the world. I'm giving you frank advice because every single farmer has got cows or dairy cows and they produce their own milk, and we love fresh milk, right? Uganda was not a producer, now it's become a producer. In fact, Uganda produces milk at half the price of Kenya. You get it? So I'm just saying that if you're trying to do milk exports into Kenya or milk products, ghee products, even ghee, right? It's from the same milk we can produce it. So all I'm saying is don't fight a losing battle. Try and see, can I now come and set up here and take this extra milk that's available and process it? I'm giving you frank advice. Working environment here, people are available. We have enough human capital. We as a company, Bidco, we operate in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. You will not get better human capital in Kenya than anywhere else. So here we've got the best of human capital. The work ethic, with due respect, is far better than the Indian worker. Yes, and therefore there's a huge possibility for that. Number one, productivity is important to people here. The work ethic is simple, and they're also good people. And they're now educated. Now they're all on screens. All our youngsters today are on screens. They're available. They know internet stuff like that. So you get a very good educated caliber here. Again, a lot of availability because our unemployment rate is high. Therefore, huge potential. And the work environment is very good.
And is it cost effective?
Yes, it's cost effective, provided, and I say provided, you actually have systems and processes in your company that are productivity oriented. Because people can be very productive here. Seed multiplication in Kenya, huge possibility. Huge possibility, and from here, you can then export to the whole of Africa from here. It's not a problem. But then you've got to go for your certification across the board. You get certified here, you will get accreditation across the board. But if you do it from India, right now, again, we got to create that rapport with our government, and I think that's something that can be looked at, how to do that. It is time consuming because it's one of those areas where you cannot bring in GMO, you cannot do this or that, or hybrids, and we're very, very worried about that. But it's not impossible. We put you in touch with the AFA, agriculture guys, and look at that from that angle. Another one is KEPHIS, Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate, and they will be very, very strict on these things. However, the possibility exists in terms of what can be done, but the regulation system is a bit lapidated, so it does take a long time. Number one, we also protect ourselves, not as good as Australia, where we protect ourselves in a big way to say, fine, what's possible, what's not possible. So it is time consuming. But once you've got your certification here, you need to be technical, you need to have your accreditation and get it done. But huge potential, I'll tell you why. Our productivity, our yield per acre, all that is very, very low. In fact, that's another area of biofertilizer, biopesticides, something you should look at.
Thank you.
He wants to do R&D for medical equipment. They'll put a red carpet and say, welcome tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm speaking for you. Absolutely. Possible. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I tell you what. If all of you are here for 3 days, after the 3 days, it is criminal to go back to India without seeing our national parks. So you must go and see our Masai Mara National Park or any other national park. See the wildlife. There's a learning experience for business. How animals can coexist with nature without human. Human are the biggest polluters, without human intervention, and therefore they've been there for ages, and there's a learning curve in that. They don't go to a university, they don't go to Harvard, IIT, whatever, but they actually have no hospitals, they have no guards, there's no terrorists there, and that's the learning for us to see in the national parks. Please do not miss them. If you want to go and see them for now, go and see them, but come back with your families and have a look at that, because that is something, we've got the best national parks in the world in Kenya. Thank you very much. And Nairobi, again, Nairobi is a city, only city in the world with a national park in the city. You go tomorrow morning at 5:30 in the morning, go to the national park, by 9 o'clock you're back here, you do your exhibition. Thank you very much. And I thought 70% of them were manufacturers, right? And therefore we are inviting them to come here, trade with us, including start manufacturing here, invest in Kenya, because we need the jobs here. And if you go around the stalls, some of the products that they have, we have demand here. And we could actually do a lot more local manufacturing, because we've got to create jobs in Kenya, number one. Number two, we've also got to get competitive in Kenya, and therefore we can actually get a lot of products from them. So the exhibition is for people to come and show what they're doing, how they're doing it, and for them also to see the country and see how they can invest here. That's why we had Kenya Investment Authority also here, to be able to promote what we are doing here as a country. So we're open for trade, we're open to anywhere in the world, but they have to be competitive, and I think we're a free market. So it was to give them that whole aspect of where we are going as a country and what's happening here.
Nice. Now that you talked about manufacturing, which are some of these opportunities that you think?
From farm equipments or from engineering equipments for electrical and all that stuff, I think we need all of that here, because a lot of times right now we're probably importing a lot of that, and we could start doing it here locally. However, we're still importing a lot of that, and they could come and make it more competitive for us. So I think Kenya is a market for the whole region, and that way we should promote a lot more of trade, intra-trade. Obviously, the balance of trade is in favor of India right now, because we import a lot of equipment, capital equipment from them. But if they come here and start manufacturing here, what's stopping us?
And you talked about taxation being a big challenge.
Overall, we've got to change or reset our country in a way whereby we look at manufacturing and local value addition as a serious ally for us, not a serious cow that you just keep milking it, right? We've got to make it competitive. And I think the underlying word here is competitiveness of industry in Kenya. The minute we make our production and our manufacturing competitive on a global scale and relatively competitive to any of the markets, then it opens up East Africa for us, it opens up the whole of SADC, because we've signed the TFTA. It's all across SADC, COMESA and EAC. Now we'll have free trade tax-free transactions across the region. Now, if we allow product from Egypt to come in duty-free, and we tax raw materials that are for production made in Kenya, it's going to make our manufacturing uncompetitive. And that's the room for improvement, to say, fine, let's make that happen. Number two, factors of production: power, labor. In fact, labor is becoming more expensive because now we are eating into the people's pockets, and therefore they have less disposable income. So we need to increase that so that people have more disposable income. Therefore, consumerism goes up and people are better off, number one. So there's a lot of room for improvement, and I would call upon all our legal people, MPs or whoever is in charge of that, to really reset and say, fine, let's make local value addition, including agriculture, including SMEs, MSMEs. Right now they're being killed. We need to revive them and say, fine, bring them up, and MSMEs come up to a level of, say, 20, 30 million. If they do that turnover, there should be no taxation. There should be no licenses. Another area that we need to stop is regulation. We're putting in a lot of licenses for everything. Why does a Kenyan, an indigenous Kenyan, need a license to operate in Kenya? If you want to do regulation, just go online and say register. But don't charge for it, number one, right? We need to make it competitive. Number two, everywhere we're putting in permits and license. For what? Do you have to go as a farmer to a person in an office in agriculture and say, I need a permit to now plant oilseeds? Why? He doesn't even know how to plant oilseeds and he's asking for a permit. You pay the money and the permit is given, then you are licensed. That is going back to the British Raj of licensed Raj, where they actually wanted to keep local Africans out of the business, and therefore they kept a licensed Raj. We don't need to go there. We need to reset that and say, allow Kenyans to operate freely, right? If it's a matter of going digital, digital doesn't cost money. Does sending an email cost you any money? It doesn't. But we're charging every email, every one of these things on eCitizen, a convenience fee and all these other charges. Make it cheaper, make it easier. If you learn from India, they've got something called Digital Public Infrastructure, DPI. Google it, you'll find out. DPI is something that the government invested in, and they've given it for free to everybody to use, which means you got M-Pesa for free. You got QR codes for free. Even the person on the street selling groundnuts in India, I saw them. They have a QR code and you just pay them a tap and that's done. And no cost, no charge. That would improve our system here so much more better rather than this whole control.
And lastly, from me, what
to invest in. Kenyans are super people, and I think it's an avenue set for investment, number one. Number two, we only need to reset a few things, and that's where if our legislation opens up and says, fine, let's make it better and improve the conditions, we'll have people coming in and say, fine, let's go manufacture here, because the opportunity you bring is free market access to the whole of Africa, to East Africa, to AGOA, right, to Europe. What other better place? And then you've got people. We've got availability of people. We've got availability of skills, English speaking. So we are in a very good place. We've got a lot of, democracy works very well here in Kenya, right? And therefore you're the media guys. Freedom of speech is allowed. Where else is it allowed? Try doing this in other countries, in neighboring countries. You can't. So therefore, I think we've got something very good going. Let's not give it up. Let's make sure we make it even better. And I think the aspirations in the manifesto for all the parties, go and see the manifesto, study them. The manifesto said it all. Let's live up to that.
Thank you very much.
Tosha, thank you.
Ambassador Esther Waringa, the President of Public Service Governance, and that's one of the reasons why we are here, because trade and investment is part of public service delivery. And we are saying here today that it's a great day when the International Confederation for Chambers of Commerce and Enterprises, all the way from New Delhi, is coming to Kenya to open up opportunities for trade and investment. We want to say very clearly that Kenya has quite a good climate and environment for trade and investment. Actually, Kenya is a pace setter in the continent of Africa, and we are pushing it forward through the bilateral and multilateral trade agreements to ensure and facilitate a conducive environment for the country and even for the continent. Here today, there is a very big chance that has been opened in the country that against everything else that is happening, especially in the governance space, we still have investors out there who are willing to come and invest in the Republic of Kenya. But we need also as a country to put our books to order. We need to ensure that licensing, we need to ensure that taxation, we need to ensure that the cost of doing business is lowered in this country, because most of the investors are really willing, and they have demonstrated their willingness here today, that they are ready to invest in Kenya. But what are we doing on governance space? What are we doing on the political space too, so that we are able to pull more investors into the country? And Kenya has been struggling with job creation. And this is one of the very big opportunities that Kenya has to be able to create job opportunities for our youth. Secondly, we have been struggling with economic growth and stability. This is a big opportunity that when these investors are coming from Asian continent, eyeing Kenya as a destination for their products, eyeing Kenya for their destination of manufacturing, eyeing Kenya for the destination of all that they are doing, then we are telling ourselves as a country that once we put everything into order, the world is ready for us to be able to invest in these beautiful countries. And our youths, our Gen Zs who are out there looking for jobs, they are the people from out of the country, from other continents, are ready to come and invest here so that we can be able to create an enabling environment for job creation. I would want to address one of the key issues that have been raised here today. How can we be able to enhance efficiency in our licensing, in our taxation processes in Kenya? Because most of the investors, when they hit our airport, the next thing is that there is quite a bureaucratic processes that they go through. And this is one of the issues that we really need to address. Bureaucratic processes on licensing, bureaucratic processes on permits, bureaucratic processes on taxation. Once we address this, then we will be able to open up the Republic of Kenya for a very, very friendly investment, not only for Asian continent, but also for other countries around the world. So it's a really big opportunity, and we request the Minister for Trade and Investment, you must move very quickly. We must also depoliticize trade and investment. We must make sure that public service is separated from the political arm of government, because we have seen very friendly people today, but are we putting everything to order to give them a friendly environment? They are ready and willing. From manufacturing, people here from Asia, from New Delhi, has demonstrated that they are coming to the country to be able to set up processing plant in our country. So let us be friendly. When they get at the airport, let them be received. Let them know that Kenya is a friendly country for investment, for tourism and everything else. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah?